Hi, Pastor Carl Johnston with the United Church of Hayworth, and welcome to our daily devotion. Today we're going to finish a series of devotions we've been doing for the last few days on Isaiah 9, verse 6. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and today, Prince of Peace. Prince of Peace. Well, certainly we understand that from the Christmas story, that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. We hear it in Christmas songs, Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, Hail the Son of Righteousness. There's a lot of titles for Jesus, and we'll talk about them throughout this whole Advent season, and we'll talk about some other things during this Advent season. But this idea of Jesus being the Prince of Peace is powerful. And it makes us wonder about, well, okay, how can Jesus be the Prince of Peace? How can Jesus be all of these things? And it's a good question to ask, and it's a good question to think about. How is Jesus the Prince of Peace? And I think, first of all, we need to take a look at the word peace. And in Hebrew, the word for peace is shalom. Shalom is more than just the absence of war. It's about well-being. It's about wholeness. How can we be at peace with God? In our vertical relationship with God, how can we be at peace with God? And before Jesus came, there was always this sense that we couldn't. No matter how hard we tried, no matter all the good things we did, it just wasn't good enough. We needed Jesus to come and show us grace and be an example for us. So maybe we didn't have a good sense of peace with God. But then we don't also have a good peace with each other. We have so many problems we deal with today. Problems like, well, you're different from me, so therefore you can't be as good as I am. Or you don't think like I do, or you don't believe like I do, or you don't practice like I do, and therefore you must be my enemy. Nothing can be further from the truth. And Jesus came that we might have peace among each other. And he taught these really strange things like, love each other, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Is that how you want to be treated? Is that how you want people to talk about you? Are those the kind of names that you would appreciate? Well, if they're not, then stop. So Jesus wants to bring peace with God, peace with each other, but I think there's another peace. A peace within. Sometimes in our own hearts, in our own lives, we can get ourselves all worked up over any number of things, can't we? We can get ourselves all worried about things. Well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if I don't know what's going to happen next? And we can get ourselves all spun up. And there's no peace inside of us. Or maybe sometimes we're just so down, so discouraged. Nothing's like it is right now. Nothing is like the way it used to be. Why, when I remember, and we've always had this and we've always done this, but now not this year because it's 2020 and it's just a year of a pandemic and elections and riots and problems, and who knows, I suspect space aliens will probably come later. Well, maybe that's a little traumatic and dramatic. Sometimes there isn't peace in our hearts, in our minds, and Jesus is called the Prince of Peace. What would it be like if you knew that you could have peace with God? It's interesting in the story about the angel Gabriel coming to talk to Mary. He says, "Hail, favored one, the Lord is with you." Now, one of the things I like about that passage is that Mary finds favor with God. I don't know that many of us think about that. Do we really think that God really likes us? That God really loves us? That we would be one of God's favorites? That he would find favor with us? Hey, you're doing a good job. You're doing considering everything that's going on, you're hanging right in there. Good for you. Do we ever sense that coming from God? Peace in our own hearts, in our own minds, peace with God, peace with each other. And sometimes the holidays bring out some really tough times, don't they? Some of those relationships that fostered and festered since school days come back. Sometimes the holidays are the worst time to get together with a family because things that you said and did when you were in your teens or younger come back to bite you at the table. Maybe sometimes getting together with a family isn't all that wonderful. But how can we have peace? Peace with a family, peace with our family, peace with our friends. How can we have that peace? And Jesus says, I will be the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace is Jesus. Wow. How does he do that? Maybe he gets us to help us to get our eyes off of ourselves and my hurts and my pain and my stuff. And he gets us to look at him who wants to bring for you and for me wholeness and favor. Not just the absence of war between us and whoever, but really something more. A sense of peace, a sense of wholeness, a sense of shalom that would be yours and mine. I wonder what life would be like if we really understood and accepted Jesus as the Prince of Peace in our lives. And that's something for you to think about.